All right, man. It's day two. Road to 10K. I think that's what we're going to call it. Road to 10K. So, in my last post, actually, if you check it out, I gave you guys like a progress report of how we did. When I say we, I mean you and me, right? Like I can't get this done without y'all. So, but the last post gave some numbers, some quick info of how we did, right? 4 new followers. Shout out to our 4 new followers on IG. And also shout out to the homie Day Troy. He reached out and was like, man, you should really look into TikTok as well. And so we're doing the same thing over on TikTok where we're trying to grow that audience all together as well as the YouTube page. So all around, man, last name good on everything. You can go and follow that, follow everywhere. That'll be super dope. And I greatly appreciate it. But what I wanted to talk about today, it's really like my passion for independent artists, and something that I will be doing probably tomorrow. I'm going to do. You can be on the lookout for. It's going to be an artist spotlight where I spotlight some of my personal favorite artists, right? Independent artists on the rise, not people that you already know. Some of them you may know, but my job here, while I have this and while I'm doing this journey, is I want to highlight other people as well, right? And so, but to give you rewind back in the story to tell you like how did I get to this point? So I came into the game and I call it a game because it truly is a game, but I came into the game as a music producer. My passion for production came from my dad. My dad had been doing engineering and producing for local acts and making as long as I can remember, right? And so all of those things kind of happened for me watching him. And my first love was actually baseball. That's what I wanted to be, a third baseman like Chipper Jones and Terry Pendleton. Like that was my goal, right? But along those lines, like things kind of shifted, and I'll never forget the day my dad heard me complaining about something that I heard on the radio, and he was like, "Well, why don't you do something about it?" And casually said that, and the equipment was there at home, and it was always around, but I never really focused on it, right? And so that one time I got to work on at the time I think the program was like Acid Pro, was like some of the first thing like on computer things that we had. Like he always had different equipment like hardware, but some of the first software that I remember producing things on was Acid Pro. It came with a CD, and you would just take different samples and put it in and like make your beat based off of other samples, right? Kind of like what people are doing now, but back then it wasn't that big of a deal, right? It wasn't as known. So, but yeah, Acid Pro, that was like the first thing. And then we kind of move on to Fruity Loops and MPC 1000, and all the way up to now I use Serato Studio for most of my production, along with Reason and Pro Tools, but mainly Serato Studio is like a little gem, especially with the way that I produce with sampling and things of that nature. But that's like in a short term my journey. And so what happened around 2011 ish, I had a company. My production company was Straight Out the Den, and I was just really getting fed up, man. Yeah, it was a very hurry up and wait process. I would make these beats or work with songwriters and put all of this hard work into things, and for the most part, it didn't amount to much of anything. If I'm being transparent, I did get a few mixtape features here and there. No major placements. I did get some independent placements where making a couple $100 here and there, selling beats. But I was just really fed up with the process. Right, it was do all of this work up front, and then, just kind of wait around for someone else to dictate whether you would get a yes or not. And that's never really been my MO. And surprisingly enough, I'm doing that now with this, right? I'm doing all of this work up front and trying to get to our 10K. However, during that process, I was just getting frustrated, man. And I'll never forget, there was this company. And I do want to shout out Jay Coop. At the time, he was working on a project. And I remember when he dropped this project had like this little logo at the bottom left or bottom right-hand corner. And the logo was a company called Ruby Hornet. Now, Ruby Hornet, I don't believe exists in the same capacity anymore. But ultimately, it was a blog site that dedicated time and energy to independent artists. And I was like, man, I want to do this, right? I don't want to wait on someone else to say yes to a project. And so I remember seeing that, and the album was Pimp Type Player. Y'all can go back, if y'all find it, y'all can go back and find it. And I did some production on there as well on that. And shout out to the homies, Introspective Minds. They were on that project as well. But I remember seeing that logo on there, and I was just thinking to myself, like, I want to drop a project with the Straight Out the Den logo on it. And from that point, this whole idea to build out straightouttheden.com as a music hub for underground artists. And that was like the birth of that idea. And so I reached out to my circle, people that I knew around me. One person that was very instrumental in helping me build out straightouttheden.com was Dominique Wilson. We actually went to college together. She was working her way through the ranks of advertising, and I was just like, yo, I need help. I don't necessarily know how to do this, but I know this is something that you're interested in. And so I reached out to her, and she was I'm forever in her debt, man, because like the first renditions of like the Straight Out the Den logo with some of y'all have the helmet, the graphic tees and the crew necks and the hoodies, but it was the helmet with Straight Out the Den in the middle, right? The first edition of that. She came up with that logo. And she built out my website, right? And at the time, it was like a Tumblr website. Shout out to Tumblr, if anybody know what that is. I think I'm aging myself out here, but that was the start. And all we did was, I used it as a hub for me, like put in projects that I was working on, but also I used it to amplify independent artists. And that grew into what straightouttheden.com is now. And so we did a lot of things there. We had a podcast there where we would interview artists. And at the time, a lot of these artists expressed that they didn't know what a podcast was, or like, this was the first time that they heard of a podcast. And so we were right in at the time we had a 2-bedroom apartment. I had just got married, and we were living in my old apartment that I shared with my homeboy Corey. So he moved out, my wife moved in, we moved into his old bedroom, and my old bedroom became the studio, right? And so we would bring artists in and have these interviews and have these conversations and just talk about their journey. And right, and part of that was just giving the advice, for these artists and things that they should try out, things that they can do. And, a lot of people came through, bro. Like a lot of people, names that people have become somebody else. Like just to run down and you know what? I don't care. This is a name drop. People try to act like it's bad, and I'm going to name drop these people because they are part of my journey. So some of the people that we've interviewed early on in my apartment, like, so shout out to India Sean, right? Like India was, is a dope artist, dope R&B singer and songwriter. We interviewed her. We interviewed Jid. We've interviewed Earth Gang. Earth Gang was not in our apartment, but we did interview him at a studio office. I forgot exactly where, but we did interview him there. We've interviewed, who else came through? Clay James. Shout out to Clay James, who interviewed the whole winning team. Like shout out to Truth Coop, Spooks McGee, Abib Jalil. Those were like some of the earlier interviews. I already shout out Coop, but like shout out to all of those people. But we had a laundry list of artists that we've interviewed on the podcast, and most of those were done at my home. Like all of it was done straight out the den of the crib. And so this passion to help out independent artists started very early, and it spun into, the website doing this thing. And it got to a point that was like, you know what, we should do shows. Right. And so some of the first shows that we did, was Say What You Say Saturdays. And now there were 3 people that were instrumental in creating Say What You Say Saturdays. And I'm going to try my best to put this in the right order. So the first artist that really held us down for that was Milestone, right? At the time, this blog site, Broke to Dope. Sorry, I was about to forget the name, but Broke to Dope teamed up with us to do like the first 2 or 3 shows, and she was rocking with Milestones very heavy, and said that like, yo, you should have him on the shows. Like I was like, cool, all right, bet. I don't know much, but it's like let's go with it. And so Milestone helped us out, like really helped launch Say What You Say Saturdays at Pag Lounge. It was 555 Whitehall Street where we did those shows. A very small area, man. I mean, we were on, the stage was probably the size of my desk. You know what I mean? Very small stage, but we rocked that thing. And so shout out to Milestone, shout out to Shanika from Broke to Dope. She was very instrumental in helping us out. And Kalunji was the owner of Pag Lounge, and like so he really spearheaded and allowed us to like bring in and do these shows. And the other person that's really a part of that journey is DJ Fire Me Up. And DJ Fire Me Up is a part of my journey. It's like so much a part of my journey. The first time that I ever DJ'd was at Say What You Say Saturdays on DJ Fire Me Up's computer. I'll never forget it, bro. It was like a dead night. Nobody was there yet. It was super early. And I was just like, yo, fuck, can I just like, get on the tables or whatever? And so I think the first set I played was maybe like 15, 20 minutes. It was just like me, him, Kalunji, maybe like 1 or 2 other people in there, man. But I remember that night very vividly, right? I remember that night because I caught the bug. I was like, as a producer, we always DJ, so to speak, like we're putting things together. But I was like, man, you know what? I think I really want to do this. And so from that moment, kind of moved things kind of moved up a little bit more, but we'll talk about that later. I don't want to deep dive into that just yet. There's more time to get into that. But I say all that to say this is really leading up to what I'm going to do tomorrow, where we spotlight artists. So I just wanted to kind of give you guys a quick journey of where I came from, how I got my start, why I am doing the things that I'm doing now, and why I have a passion for independent artists. It is something that has been a part of my DNA for a while now, right? Over 10 years at this point, moving over to close to 15 years of helping independent artists. And part of that, you don't necessarily get the accolades that other people may give. And that was something that truly I had to fight with, because that there were times where I would help people and they would move on to other situations and no words would be mentioned. Right. And so that's something I had to like battle with myself and realize that, are you doing the work because you want to be recognized for doing the work, or are you doing the work because you want to help people? And when I had that conversation, I realized like, no, I enjoy helping people. And so when I came to that realization of I'm here to help, the credit will come with it. And I will say one of the biggest shout outs that we have ever received, and when I say we, I mean straight out the den and last name good, that ever received, came a couple of years ago. And shout out to the artist Grip. Grip he did a lot of our shows. Like he's been with us at every stage. He was there with Say What You Say Saturdays. Shout out to Fleetwood Fred and Tate 228. But he would come in on their shows, right? And I just thought he was one of the homies with them. And I never forget the day he pulled me to the side. He was like, no, bro, I can rap too. And from that, he got on some shows and like he would kill. I was like, oh yeah, he can rap for real, But time has passed on and Grip signed with Shady Records, and he put out a project. And on one of those projects, it was he did a thank you song where he just really shouted out, people that he had love for, right? And my name got called, bro, and it was a shock. You know what I mean? Because I wasn't looking for it, because like Grip is one of those people that always express love. Like every time I've seen Grip, he was always be like, yo, what up, Jay Good? Like if I send him stuff, he would, give me feedback, and vice versa. He would send me stuff and I give him feedback. And there's always been love. There's never been any like funny business with Grip. So I wasn't expecting it, but it was a surprise, bro. And he shouted us out on that record. And his shout out was saying like, matter of fact, I'm gonna play it here. right? It'll somewhere. Where's the camera? Yeah, we'll put it in one of these spaces here. We'll put it. And I thank Grip for that, because he didn't have to do that, and it meant the world when I heard that. Just supporting an album of someone that I've watched come up and like kill it, and and to hear that, it was just like, all right, cool, bro. Like, all right, you doing it. You saw somebody who come through the doors of like 50 max people at Say What You Say Saturdays at Pag Lounge, and now he's performing for the world, at festivals, man, and for signed to arguably one of the greatest rappers of our generation. So that was a dope moment for us. But that's enough for today, right? So if you're watching this on YouTube, you got a chance to see the entire video. And I do thank you for joining us on this journey. But as always, remember, if you have a dream, pray on that dream, research that dream, and work until that dream becomes reality. I'm Last Name Good. This was day 2.